So welcome to Rainsford Reptiles. I've got Canadian Coldblood Brandon with us today. Thank God, because I've been looking forward to speaking to you, and I've been watching some of your stuff on social media, and I am absolutely psyched to get you here and having a good old chat. So how are things with yourself?
Things are good. Things are good. Thanks for having me on. I
No, no,
always
you're
appreciate
very,
when I
very welcome. So the first thing I want to speak about is like the whole breed, because you obviously you do your breeding, what kind of got you into this journey?
Oh well, I'm sure just like every other reptile person, hey, you're that kid that's always in the woods in the field down by the creek catching things. I love fishing, just general interest, man. And I was always interested in the creepy crawly, weird kind of unconventional stuff. And
Yeah.
and then you discover reptiles when you're 8, 9, 10 years old, and yeah, it just spiraled out of control from there.
Oh, God, I mean,
Right.
Does anything in Pacific kind of got you, got your blood pumping into going, you know what, this is the thing I wanted to really breed? Is anything what stood out?
Well, I mean, when in my younger years, I always had a fascination with turtles,
Yeah,
and I grew up on a lake up north, and there was always turtles around, and you'd always see them laying eggs and stuff. So I really liked turtles, and then it grew into chameleons. So I
wow.
dabbled with chameleons because they were always like very, very interesting to me. And then I bred veiled chameleons and stuff, but it was really kind of when I got my first Ackies
Yeah,
and played with those that I was like, yeah, this is the genus for me, Varanus for sure.
wow.
Yeah, and now I'm basically known as a predominantly a monitor guy, right? A monitor
Yeah,
lizard
definitely.
guy.
You're
Yeah.
definitely the monitor guy. That's what I
Yeah.
definitely say. How many do you think you out of all the species, how many different species do you think you breed? And how many do you think you actually own, breed, and sell?
Yeah, I've bred all the tree monitor species, so all six tree monitor species, Ackies, Pilbaras, Kimberleys, um, I have Crocs and Lacies right now. I haven't actually bred those yet.
Wow.
I've seen population in the Croc monitors, but it hasn't materialized in anything yet. And then I did breed all the other Odacria, like the Tristis and Orientalis, and I've bred Kingorum and Codaliniatis and Gillini and all those things. But I kind of got rid of those projects. For me personally, it just
Yeah.
wasn't, they didn't interest me as much as some of the bigger, smarter monitors and prettier, right? So yeah, I've dabbled in a lot. I've bred quite a few Varanus Affenbergi. I've bred those too. So
Yeah.
yeah, I've dabbled in quite a few species, and now in the last year or so, I've taken the step into getting some of the larger species of monitors. I did an addition onto my shop where I call it the large monitor room, right? So
Yeah.
so yeah, so I'm working with some Coming Eye and some Lacey's and the Croc monitor enclosures in that room.
Wow.
So yeah, but you know what, man? It's like there's just so much cool stuff. It's like you really
Yeah.
have to. You go crazy trying to do it all, I suppose.
I bet
That's
if you could, though, I
only.
bet you could. I wish you could do it all if you could, Like bring them all together.
Oh yeah,
That's
no,
wow.
for sure. Yeah,
What's the easiest do you think you've bred so far?
easiest species to breed. Uh,
Probably a really, trick question.
yeah,
There's so many really, but I always curious. It's always that curiosity of when I see you do things, I think I wonder how easy that was compared to the last lot you've done, and I always kind of question
yeah.
how easy does he make this? Because sometimes when I see things from you, I go, how easy does he make this look?
Well, yeah, I would say that the Ackies, like I mean, yellow Ackies are probably just like such a routine now. Just everything's all timed perfectly. Everything is like clockwork, and it's just
Yeah,
easy. I mean, in terms of numbers of eggs and things, like the Glower the Kimberly Rock monitors, I mean, they pump out a lot of eggs, right? For
yeah,
if they're done well. I have things pretty well dialed in, so a lot of the stuff in the shop is fairly routine now, I guess. It's just once the parameters are met, they just do their thing, and yeah, so I'd say they're all pretty good. They're all fairly routine now, with the exception of the bigger stuff that I'm still sorting out. But you know,
That's,
yeah. So
and I know in your, I know also from what I've done, because I have done my research,
yeah.
just so we can have this conversation. So is it, are you a school teacher as well?
Yeah, I just walked in the door from my day, right? Because
Wow.
we're done at 2 p.m. my time. It's now 3. So I work about a half hour away from where I live. So I got home and sat down and turned on the computer. But yeah, I teach high school biology and business.
Biology. Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And I guess you enjoy that as well.
Yeah, I that's why I still do it, because I enjoy it. And tomorrow's actually reptile day for the kids.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, once a semester I bring in a whole bunch of monitors, and geckos, and
No
kids
way.
have to fill out the permission forms, like get their parents to sign off saying they're allowed to hold them if they want to, right?
That's
I always warn the kids. I'm like, they you I'm not saying they will bite, but there is the odd chance that they could, depending
yeah,
on the situation. But I don't bring anything harmful in, right?
of
It's like
course.
a little Leachianus gecko takes a nip, or a gargoyle, right? Scares them more than anything. But I'm like, they do have mouths and they
I
can
think I've
bite.
seen that one, yeah. I think I have seen that on the video and it does look pretty crazy. But no,
Yeah.
that is so cool. I bet are the kids like psyched and excited for this? Like, are they like really up for it?
Oh, it's a thing. But because I've been doing it for 20 years, right? So it's a thing. When kids have me when they learn that they have me as a teacher, the first day of the semester, they goes, when's reptile day, Mr. Van
Oh
Ness?
wow.
Yeah, yeah, they love it.
That is
So
so cool. Do you know what? I wish I had a teacher like that. Oh, that would have been amazing. What kind of age group is it you teach?
right now they're 16, 17-year olds.
Oh, wow, so it's like high school.
Yeah, high school.
Oh wow.
So yeah, so it's a bit of a it's interesting, because always at the end of the class, oh, can I buy this? Can we get these? Like, can we have these? I'm like, I can't sell them to you kids. It's a conflict of interest, right? I'm not here promoting business. This is for you guys, right? But
That's cool.
I do say to them, if you're really, really interested in a lizard, like, well, usually they want like a gecko or something, like a
Yeah.
gargoyle gecko or something like that. I always like, I'll just give you one, but you have to get your parents to sign off on it and everything. I don't want to make money off you kids, right? It's like, for me being a teacher, I don't want it to be like a conflict of interest. So I'm always like,
Yeah.
if you want a gargoyle gecko, I always get some that are like, some really nice ones, and some that are like kind of not the color that I want. So
Yeah.
it's, you guys can have those ones.
Have you had many students actually ask you that question, like, "Oh, can I buy from you?"
Oh, lots of them do, just on a whim, right? Like, oh,
Yeah,
can we
so
get
they
one
can
of
get
these from
away
you?
with
And
it.
but the second I tell them, okay, well, you have to talk to your parents. Your parents have to talk to me. I'll
Yeah,
talk to them. Let you know what it's entailed. Over 20 years, I've probably given away 5 or 6 geckos. That's so once you weed out the just impulsiveness of it, and then
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
go through it, then you get the kids that really, really want one. So yeah,
Yeah, I
but
think that's where it starts, though, doesn't it? For us as like being reptile enthusiasts, that I was very, very like with my ADHD, I was like, yeah, I want that now, and I did. And
yeah,
the trouble
yeah,
I made the most rookie mistake where I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get something and then wing it, where I didn't do the research or anything, and that's just part of my ADHD that I want to be, I want it now, and I don't think about the situation until I've got it. And to be fair, I didn't do too bad. I started off with a Horsfield tortoise,
yeah,
and they're pretty easy to care for. They're easy to feed. The only downside is Horsfields are they're not the very loving animal, but from
yeah,
what I found out, and then I got because I just thought, oh, tortoise, I always wanted one, and everyone was like, yeah, but the Horsfield, by the way, isn't the most friendliest tortoise. But then we've had it now for a few years, and I can actually say it is definitely warming up to me after a few years. There's times where I'm sat here and it's literally right here in front of me. And there's times where I could be doing some work in here and you'll just see its little head like poke up and watch what I'm doing. And then I look and then sometimes it's like, even though they don't have those human emotions, but sometimes you think it looks at me and then it goes, oh no, he saw me, he looked at me, he looked at me. But I find them so interesting. That's where I kind of went straight from getting a tortoise and then I went into the easy stuff like bearded dragons, what are all behind me here. Funny enough, one of yours is right in here.
oh yeah,
Right here.
nice.
Right now, obviously, 'cause it's still a baby, 4x2x2, but then I'm in the middle of like speaking to Sliver into obviously upgrading to obviously a more massive space. So they've got more climbing. But I did all that up. I don't know if you saw one of my videos where I literally did it
Yeah.
all, lots of climbing opportunities. Because I watched one of your videos, and I was like, yeah, I haven't got enough climbing stuff. I really need to get more climbing. And I put loads of like bamboo on the back, drilled it all in. So then they've got climbing opportunities. The only downside to that is when we're scared, we're going right behind there and hiding and not coming out. So for about
Right.
a week, I was like panicking. I literally left the camera in here because there was one, it was like the third or fourth night. I was literally panicking, thinking, this hasn't come out at all, and I feel like okay, it's in a new environment, like it's very normal. But a part of me is thinking, I haven't seen you, and I'm worried that something's happened to you, and I don't know. So I left the camera on. I was thinking, no, I didn't get nothing, no movement whatsoever. And then it was weird because it was on a Friday. Then on the Saturday, I had no plans for the first Saturday ever. I had no plans, and I decided to literally sit over there and I was just chilling there waiting. I was on my phone and all of a sudden I saw a little movement and my heart skipped a beat. I was like, oh, we're okay, thank God. I was like, you're
Yeah.
safe, you're happy. And then I could see it moving. And then as soon as I stood up, it was like, no, 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 no. I'm gonna go back and hide. And I was like, oh, this is gonna take a while, isn't it? And then by the end of that day, I was managing to feed it off some tongs. And I was like,
Okay.
oh, cool. Okay, we're getting somewhere. Now, when I'm in the room, it stays out, it hangs out, and I've recently got it to start luring onto my hand. And today,
Okay.
I've been each about every other day, I've been kind of working on starting from my hand and working way up. Today, it went up here, and I went, now we're getting better, we're getting more confident with me. But then, as soon as it takes the food, then it realizes, oh crap, I've got too close. But then the worst thing that happened to me the other day, because when they take the food and they obviously don't use their hands, they're
Yeah.
like rubbing, and it was like rubbing on my hand, and I was like, oh, that bloody sucks. You're like rubbing all your beak and all this sharp, your claws are sharp, and you're doing all this movement on my hand. And I was like, in a sense, I was happy though, because I was thinking, you're not panicking, you are staying where you are. And now when I'm in the room, it sometimes runs over to me and taps to the glass to say, feed me, feed me. And I was like,
Oh yeah.
we're
Good.
getting a relationship. So we're building some kind of relationship. We're building some trust. And sometimes it makes me laugh because my wife will come in and sometimes it will run away. And I'm like,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
you like
Yeah,
me.
that's right.
I get that a bit of a bonus. Like, yeah, because all
Yeah.
the snakes, they all love my wife. I said this in probably every episode. All the snakes we own, they absolutely love my wife. Like, we've got a boa constrictor, and I've said it in probably every podcast. She's extremely spicy. And she's only a baby, but she absolutely hates me. Absolutely hates me. Like if I try and handle her, she literally she's bit me every time I've handled her. But if my
Right.
wife handles her, she doesn't have a problem. I'm like, this sucks. But I'm more. I love. I'm more. I'm the lizard guy. I say I'm the lizard guy. That's what I
Yeah.
love. I love my bearded dragons. I love the monitor. I love my monitors and all that. So, but that brings me to my next question. And I don't know if you're allowed to answer this. If you can't answer it, that's totally cool. How did you like get into connection with like UK sellers like Slytherin? Like, is Slytherin the only one in the UK? And if so, how did that even come about to you making a connection with someone over the UK to sell one of your monitors?
Well, I've been exporting my reptiles all over Europe probably for 25, 26 years now, right? Basically, as soon as I started breeding the Australian dwarf monitors and had good success with Kimberley rock monitors, then
Yeah,
I was exporting. I used to deal with a guy named Sean Parler out there. He would
yeah.
buy them back in the late 90s, early 2000s. There's been a few people in the past in the UK, but Slytherin actually reached out to me
Oh wow.
there a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
looking for some of the tree monitors, and I hadn't like really touched the UK in a long time. It's just like it was like the guys that I knew, like Scott Wilkinson. He bought some stuff from Tube all throughout the years. So I've shipped to the UK, but the UK seemed to have dried up a little bit, and I think the problem was the general consensus was that it just can't be done anymore.
Yeah.
right? So like a couple years ago, I had a good guy named Dan Nardini. You know Dan?
I've
And
heard of Dan, yeah.
yeah, he messaged me and he's like, "Hey, I'd love to get some blue tree monitors from you, but everybody's telling me it's impossible." And I was just like, I don't know why they'd say that. It's there's a bit of paperwork involved, but it's not impossible. I mean, it can be done. I don't know if people tell, or if that's the consensus because, there's sellers over there that want to sell their animals, just having people try and get them from other sources, whatever. I have no idea what went on,
Yeah.
but I just led Dan through the process. I said, I'll get my export permits. Then you have to apply for an import permit. They'll probably send me a questionnaire because they always do in the past for new species,
Mm.
and I'll fill that out. I do it with the German authorities. I do it with many different countries in Europe. So it's not a big deal. It just takes a bit of time, and we can get it done. And then at the end of the day, we did it and he got him in and he was like, oh, this is great, so it wasn't as difficult. Most of the time people find me though, right? Like
Yeah.
my website's old and it's not referenced much. I'm just out there on social media, and
Yeah.
it's people just reach out to me for the most part, and yeah, it just takes the right person or people to kind of be like willing to do it, right? And it is, if
Yeah.
you've never done it before, it seems really daunting,
Yeah.
but from my end of it, that's pretty much all I do. Like I can't really rely on the Canadian economy to support my addiction, right? So I export all over the place. So I know the ins and outs of it for a lot of countries anyways. And so yeah, people find me, but that's how it came about. I used to export to the UK quite regularly. And then there was a bit
Yeah.
of a dry period. And then Dan was the first person in the last couple of years to reach out. And then Slytherin reached out to me, and
Yeah.
yeah, so that's kind of how it worked out.
That's how it's all come around. So it's like when I got mine from Sliver, and everyone was like, "Is that Brandon's?" Instantly, they're like, "Is
Yeah,
that Brandon's?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And then because obviously Sliver do so well with obviously your monitors because they do go very very quick. And I remember the first, I don't know if it was their first import. I went into the shop and I was like, I wasn't really in the known about like Tree Monitor or anything like that. I didn't know
yeah,
their names or any. I didn't know nothing really about them because I was still very early into this hobby. Like people are really surprised and they tilt their head when I tell them that I've been in this hobby since like only like not even a year, and I've got all the
right.
animals. Like I started, um, like this is gonna sound crazy. I started in June this year, and I've got all these,
Oh,
and I committed. Like I've always wanted reptiles, always. But when I used to live with my mum and dad, they were like, they're not. That's not their thing. They were either a cat or a dog, and we were just like a family who were just never interested. But I always had this interest in always wanting to own my own snake, and that's just
right.
because I was afraid of them. I was always scared of snakes, and I always wanted to just have one and say, you know what, I'm going to get over this fear just by having one. But then
Yeah.
my brother was terrified, so my mum said no, as it happens. And then obviously I've been married for so many years, and I just said to my wife, like when we moved into this house, this very room was so, this used to be a gym, this used to be a room for, I used to have my office in here. And then I randomly, because I randomly just said I wanted this tortoise, and we left it in here to be in our office. And then all of a sudden it came to owning a bearded dragon, then owning another bearded dragon. Then I turned around, I was like, right, would you have a snake? And she was like, yeah, let's try it. Then we had a snake. Now we've got like seven snakes in here. And then we started going to Slytherin and connecting with Bade, and that's how I met Mark when Mark was there.
Yeah.
And we got like a really nice connection with them. And then I just remember being in the store one day and I just seen, and I didn't even know what it was at first. So all I remember, I just seen this blue and black lizard, and I didn't have a clue what I was looking at because I was still
Yeah.
new to it all. And it was just tapping on the glass, and I was just looking at it, and I said to Vaden, "What are these?" Because and he looked at me like, "God, where have you been all your life?" He gave me this
Yeah.
look to say, "Where have you been? Like seriously,
I can
you don't know what
imagine.
this is, and you've got all these reptiles." I was like. I said, "Come on, you know I'm new to this," and
Yeah.
and he told me all about it, and he told me the story of it, and then I was like, oh, and I still didn't really get it. I was like, "Oh, okay." Then
Yeah.
he was explaining that he's been to your house, and he was saying, "This is
Yeah.
the guy I got it from. Have you ever heard of him?" And I says, "Well, I've heard the name before because I think it's come in passing when I've spoke to other guys in the industry who I've spoke to over in the States. And then I was like to my wife, one day I'm going to learn about these and own one of these. And my wife went, for that much? I don't think so. Like she didn't get it at first, and I don't think I did. And then in the end, I kind of went home, got the information, and I used my ADHD brain. It was like fixated of
Yeah.
this is what I want, and I need to learn about this. And I still didn't get the hype over it. Like I was still not sure about why are people obsessed about these reptiles. And then I had a podcast episode with Adam, and Adam was like telling me about his, telling me about you a bit more in depth. And I was like, well, I've been watching Brandon like on YouTube, bits on YouTube of what I've been watching videos on Instagram. I said it's pretty damn cool actually. And Adam went, yeah, you'll get one. One day you'll get one. And I was like, yeah, whatever. And I just didn't really get the point what he was on about, like saying that the feeling of owning one is great, getting to have that that chemistry, the relationship you can have with one. And then it wasn't so long. I think his monitor, he's called it Chomper. He's got is that one of yours?
His
Black.
McRae eye.
Yeah, he's got a black tree monitor.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think he got one from Chris Applin, Prestazzi Farms, and he
Yeah,
got another one from me. Yeah,
yeah. I think Stitch he got from you.
right.
It's the same one
Yeah,
as mine. And funny enough, I've called mine Stitch because I just thought it was a suited name. So I was like, Adam, I'm still in that name. It's great. Um, and then he called the other one's called Chomper. And I was like, why did you call it Chomper? And he was like, oh, my wife got bit pretty bad by one. So I was like, okay, that's why you call it. It makes sense. And then
yeah.
Trish, his wife, was telling me like she had to go to the hospital, like the doctor to check it. Like, it was a bit of a bad bite. And
Wow.
they said, oh, what kind of a cat bit you? And then she was like, "Oh, it wasn't a cat. It was a tree monitor." And they were like, "Wow!" And they didn't really get what they were showed
Yeah,
what
yeah.
on about. Like me, I just didn't get it. But then, as I've done the research and watched you more, watched other reptile, YouTubers, and I'm like, I get it. I get it massively. Like I understand what it's all about, and it feels great owning one. Like it's so cool, like seeing like all those videos, and then you own one yourself, and you feel like dead. I honestly have all the ones I own. I feel dead proud knowing I own one, and it's come from you. That's how it makes me feel. So makes me
Oh,
really proud to know
thank
that.
you.
Honestly, and that's what I also wanted to Brett mention on you did the latest room tour, didn't you? With yeah,
Ion.
yeah, that's it. And there was something what was really wanted to ask you, and I couldn't wait to ask you this.
Sure.
I was really, really fascinated with the fact that at the end of when they're being hatched and you collect the eggshells and they're all in that bag on top of your door. And I was like, there's so many in there. One, my OCD was like, damn, I can't handle that. But the one what got me the most, I was going, is mine, my very one I own, is my shell in that bag? And that's what I wanted to ask.
Yeah, that's it. That would be in that bag because that bag's, I think it's about 2 years worth of eggshells in there from tree mud. So yeah, it would be in there for sure. Because
Wow.
you just picked up that blue from Baden, right?
Yeah, I've had it about a month now.
Yeah, so it would have been on the lot. Yeah, so
Wow.
yeah, it's definitely in there.
That's what I was
But
re
like,
when I was watching it, I was like, man, my stitch, that could be the egg from and I was like saying to my wife, going, that egg could be our baby. And it's crazy.
that's what I should do actually. Every time somebody gets a hatchling tree monitor, is put the eggshell in with it. Put a little idea.
Honestly, it's such a sick idea. But when I seen it, I was like, seeing all of them, I was like, when you said about 2 years worth, I was like, man, my tree monitor's literally been in that shell, and now I'm watching the YouTube video of what my, even though I've never met you in person, and it's just that how you connect those dots is
Yeah.
it's so cool thinking it. And like I remember I think I watched another one of your episodes. You were having another, this was about 2 or 3 years ago. You were having another podcast episode with somebody. I can't remember who it was. I just landed on it and I thought I'd watch it. And it was like crazy. Like you were talking about your first, like, did you get one like a little pet from a pet shop or something, and you started breeding from that, and then you traded or something? A couple.
Oh, the McCrae.
That was it. That was it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that was yeah. So my my first tree monitors were McCrae, the blue trees,
Yeah.
and I had there was a shop here in Ontario, Toronto, and he had a pair there, and he asked me if I wanted to take him on breeding loan and try and do something with him, and I was like, yeah, sure, because I wasn't into tree monitors at all.
Yeah.
So but I had bred the other monitors, and I was like, it was kind of one of those things. I was like, I need to prove that these things are breedable in captivity. That was part of it.
Yeah.
My thing was, I never got into the tree monitors because I didn't want to breed something that was readily imported all the time and compete with that market, right? But
Yeah.
then there was a lot of like whispers, oh, tree monitors are impossible to breed, and they're really. It's one thing to breed Ackies and stuff, but it's another thing to breed tree monitors. So I was like, let's play with them. I mean, I'm not paying for them. It's a breeding loan.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll try and do them justice and just play with them and see. So I built them a nice big cage or enclosure, and then I had this pair. But after a little while, they were imported animals. The female was God knows how old, and she
Yeah.
looked like an old lizard to me. And I was like, yeah, this probably isn't the best stepping stone to try with. And it turned out I was at a reptile show, and the guy across the aisle from me came over, and he's looking at all the monitors that I had. And he's like, do you ever breed blue tree monitors or anything? I said, no, I have a pair right now that I'm kind of playing with, but I haven't bred them or anything. And he was like, we have one at our store. And I was like, well, and this was a store that's literally a half-hour drive from me, just
Yeah.
a regular pet store. And I
Yeah.
said, and he's like, yeah, we've had it for like 2.5 years. It came in as a baby and we've raised it up in the store. And he's like, nobody will buy it because we have it marked up. It's so expensive. And I was like, really? And I said, do you know what the sex is? And he's like, it's a female, right? So, and obviously, I'm always like, when somebody says, oh, we have this female, and I'm like, yeah, it's probably
Yeah.
male, or whatever, right? And so I said, well, is there somebody at the store now that you know that we could just take a picture of it and send you a picture while you're here at the show with me? He's like, yeah, yeah. So he gets me a picture of it, and I look at it. I'm like, oh, probably is a female just by looking at it, right? I'm like, holy smokes. So literally, the reptile show ended that Monday. I drove out to the store to see it, and I was like, wow, this is like a beautiful female blue tree monitor that we know is approximately 3 years old because they got it as a hatchling. And then yeah, I said to the manager of the store, I was like, you've been sitting on this thing for a long time. You're asking a lot of money for it. Your average customer is not going to buy this. I said, why don't I trade you a bunch of more sellable animals
Yeah.
for the blue tree monitor, and then you can recoup your funds. So he was game for it. So I ended up doing that, scooped up the blue tree, and the rest is history. I got it here, and probably within 3 or 4 months, I had my first clutch of eggs from the thing because
Wow.
he had told me he had said, "Oh, she laid dud eggs in the store," and I was like, well, "Yeah, right," but but it was turned out to be all true, right? And yeah, so and that was it. And that female, that was a long that female's got to be she's got to be probably 15 to 16 years old now, and she's still breeding. I still
Really?
get every 3 to 4 months now. Still,
Easy. And that's what
yeah,
I think, well, because I remember you telling this story before
yeah,
and on that episode, and I was like, me and my wife were literally in our living room and we went, isn't it weird that we've just purchased a monitor and this is kind of where the story starts with you and how where we are today,
yeah,
only one what's come from you. It's just like how it went whole circle. And I was like, isn't it weird that we're in the UK? That's happened. That story's come from you. Then it's come from we've all it's took for us is go to slivering, getting our reptile. And I was just I don't know what I was just pinching myself a little bit, thinking it's you've got to you've got to feel pretty damn lucky to own one, and it's come from you. And that's why I always say I feel pretty honored. And the reason why I say that as well is that some people will go to me like people were messaging me like when I got my monitor home, and they were saying like where did you get that from? And I was like, oh, I got that from Slivering. And the first thing what people's it came out of people's mouths was is that from Brandon? Like, because obviously we know Slytherin get from Canadian Coldblood. Like, is that the same one? I was like, yeah. And they were like, damn, how many? And then they go, how many are left? And I was like, well, last time I checked, I said I don't run the store, but last time I checked, there was like two blacks, and then obviously the blue and black. There was one, but then I went there on Friday last week. The blue and black's gone, so they're all sold. I think they've got one black left.
Right.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, it's so cool to just think like when people are asking me like you've actually owned like one of Brandon's, and it's mad. And when they say that, I'm like, yeah, I feel special. I'm like, yeah, I feel special. Yeah, I get it. It's so good. I own one of Brandon's, it's so cool. And that's why I love telling that story. And then when people like message me, like I'm obsessed about that lizard so much, that monitor lizard so much, where you can get so many beautiful pictures and videos, and then like on this group chat I'm on at the moment, like they're like posting pictures of like what you're really proud of, what you own, and I always put up ours, and then they always go, okay, where'd you get that from? And I'm like, and I just put back like it's from Canadian Coldblood, and everyone then like goes, because obviously the people I'm talking to, they're all from the States. Well,
Yeah.
literally, there's me, Mark, and his partner. We're the only people from the UK who are actually going on this trip. Everyone else is
Right.
from the States.
Right.
And then when I put it up, they're like, that is actually really cool that you're from the UK and you own one of these. And I'm like, yeah, I know it is. I know it's so cool. It feels so good to say that. And everyone's like, that's so cool. And then they're like, how did you get to like get one of those then if you're like in the UK? So I just said, well, one of the shops I used to go to, they communicate with Brandon. That's how they import over here. And they were like, that is pretty cool story. Like, so it is really cool to know that we own one from yourself. And that's why I love hearing that story. And it always makes me pinch myself thinking that is so cool that we actually how that story's come about to where we are today.
Yeah.
It is,
It is amazing how things do fall in line, though.
yeah,
As you go through this journey, it's like things just seem to happen like fortuitously, right? And it's just like the stars align many times. They've done it for me many times where it's just like, you know, like the lace monitors, for instance.
yeah,
Like I can't source lace monitors out of the US. They don't issue CITES export permits, and and then to get them out of Europe is hard to find somebody that is willing to do it and that has actually the legitimate lineage that they approve to export, right? And so I'm like, busting my butt basically trying to find legal ones that I can get and somebody to do it, and then randomly get a message on Instagram from a guy in Canada. He's like, hey, I have this pair of Bell's Phase lace monitors. I'd love for them to go to somebody who might be able to breed them. Would you be interested? And I was like, yeah.
yeah,
Like it's just so coincidental, right? It's like the only two lace monitors in Canada. Somebody hits me up asking if I'm interested. I'm like, yeah, for sure, right? So yeah, so it's amazing how those things work out. Like with the
yeah.
female blue tree monitor, somebody comes up to me at a show and says, yeah, we have one at my pet store. I'm like, really? Okay, perfect.
Mad. So,
Yeah.
what would your recommendations be? Say, like, if I was in the situation myself, to say, you know what, Brandon, I want to breed mine. What would your advice be if I did decide to go down that line?
Well, you'd have to get another one,
I'd have to get.
obviously.
Well, that's the first thing, definitely.
Yeah. Um, it seems like I don't know if it's the same for everybody else. It seems like I produce a heck of a lot of female Macraei,
Yeah.
and it seems like the males are in short supply. It's like
Mm.
everybody that I sell a single animal to, it's like they always get females, and they're always hitting me up a year later saying, "Hey, do you have a male?" And I'm like, I usually I don't raise them up to the point where they're really, really sexable. A few times
Yeah.
I do, but yeah, so um, what would be my advice? Well, work with the one that you have now.
Yeah.
I
For
think
sure.
depending on what it turns out that you get, you'll always be able to pair it up at some point, and they're very long lived, so there's no rush. Um, I would say just learn that lizard, right? Learn the conditions for that lizard.
Yeah.
Because they have specific behaviors that tell you a lot about even just your setup, right? Are
Yeah.
the temperatures right? You know, if it's always basking all the time, then it's probably too cold in there. If it's never basking and it wants to hide after about an hour's worth of being out and about, then it's probably too hot. You know, pick up on those little cues and then try and dial it in with that one, that one animal. And then once you get those factors kind of dialed in and it's stress free and healthy, breeding it's not the problem, right? They'll do that for you. I mean, it's you go about finding another decent animal somewhere and pair it up, and the rest will happen. But once you get those basic conditions down, I find that breeding the tree monitors is it's really heavily temperature dependent, not so much
Mm.
rainfall, humidity, anything like that. Like
Yeah,
I keep my stuff a bit on the drier side. I'm just, I've seen the horror shows that can happen when they're too wet,
yeah,
and I've said this before. We can't replicate what happens in Indonesia in an enclosure in a building.
yeah, yeah,
So, moisture without airflow is bad. Humidity is different than being wet, right? So you can
yeah,
have decent air humidity. In my shop, it has decent air humidity, but I prefer not to have wet substrate, wet branches, all that stuff all the time. So
yeah,
you dial those things in, and then temperature is the big one, and then food, right? You know, I just feed a variety of stuff, right? Really, you'll find out what they like. Every tree
yeah.
monitor seems
Well,
different.
mine's obsessed about locusts at the moment.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely loves
yeah,
that.
they. I don't have access to locusts, but in the summer I can go out and catch,
Yeah, yeah,
decent sized grasshoppers or mantids because I have a farm, right? So I have a lot of farmland and there's all bugs all over the place, right? So
of
I'll
course.
go out and collect a few mantids and throw them in there, and they love praying mantises
Oh, I bet,
and
yeah,
oh they'll try anything really,
yeah, yeah. But
but yeah.
it's so much fun watching them eat as well. I could stare at them all day, just thinking how cool it is, just watching them eat, how they're rubbing their faces while they're trying to do it. I just find it really curious how they do it and how they move, and I just find them. They are like, I think the reason why I like them, they just remind me of dinosaurs. Like
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever grown up like from that. Where as a kid I was always obsessed about dinosaurs, and then Jurassic Park came out and that was like a different story for me. I'm thinking this film changes my life
Oh
altogether.
yeah,
Where I'm like, that is so cool. But that's
I
never,
remember that came out. Yeah,
and I was like obsessed about that in like 90, it was like 1998. I was like, I think it was
I think it
only
was like 93 that came out or something.
yeah, I was just obsessed about it. And then I was thinking, I just love to like have a reptile. And then I think that's what kind of got me to thinking when I seen the monitors, I think sometimes when they do things like when they're like climbing and then they do this thing with their neck. So they do this like thing with their neck, like turn it weirdly.
When
And
they're feeding, or
no, when she's literally the other day, she was on her like branch and she just did this thing what just looked like she was a velociraptor all of a sudden. She turned her head, like when a bearded dragon turns
yeah,
their she turned her head, but then her whole neck turned with her. This movement she did, what I've
yeah,
never seen a reptile ever do. And at first I was like, "Are we good? Are we cool? You okay?" And then she
yeah,
was like, because at first because I moved, and obviously she was obviously still because she was like freaking. I think she was a bit nervous, but then she did something with her head like really fast, and I was like, "Whoa, you look like a velociraptor. That is pretty damn cool." I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but that's pretty damn cool. But then no, we've had no worries, obviously. But then I seen her do it, and I was thinking that is weird and cool at the same time. How you move,
yeah.
how you do things, and I thought they are so fascinating. But that's why I also own a tegu, and that's still juvenile. And my God, that is one clever. They're very clever animals, aren't they? Very clever. I had to literally get some new door stoppers on the sliding glass because I was in here the other day. Funny enough, I was about to feed Stitch, and I had the tongs in my hand, got in the bugs, and all of a sudden, then you hear the sliding door, and I heard it, and I was like, I didn't register that the door moved on its own, and I was like, mm. So I carried on, and all of a sudden I heard it again. All of a sudden I just seen Artego walk strolling out like it was a Sunday morning having a Sunday stroll. And I looked at him like, how the hell did you do that? And I was thinking, you clever, clever thing. So it's learned how to get in between the door and push it. And I was like, and then in my head, instantly, I was like, it's like the scene out of Jurassic Park when the Velociraptor learns how to open the door.
Yeah.
I was like, that is scary. And I was thinking, have you watched me? No, or you just realized you can put your hand there and move it. And I was like, that was the most cleverest thing I've ever seen. So I was like, right, I better go back to Slytherin. I need some door stoppers because I've run out. So off I went
Yeah.
to Slytherin, and everyone's like, more door stoppers. I was like, yeah, our Tegu's learned how to open the door. So it's pretty
Yeah.
interesting. But Expos,
Well,
sorry, what were you gonna say
I
something?
was going to say it's one thing to have a juvenile tegu do that, but imagine opening the door to your large monitor room and realize that an 8.5 foot male crocodile monitor did that, and it's on top of another enclosure. That happened
Oh,
to
that
me.
would freak you out, wouldn't it? That
Oh
happened.
yeah, I have like house windows, right? Like old house windows from when I was renovating on either side of the enclosure, and I wanted to get a little bit more airflow in there. And I opened the window, just a little bit, and I put a wooden stopper at the bottom so it couldn't slide over anymore. While the croc monitor got, I still to this day don't know how but it wedged. It must have just went yoink
Oh
and
no,
just stretched it open and climbed out. And I was probably a good, I don't know, 3 days before I was able to wrangle that
really?
male and get it back in the enclosure. And the only way I got it back was I just left the enclosure door open
Oh, and it just
and
went back in, did it?
I couldn't. I couldn't. It's so strong, and it would hide behind other cages, and it was, they're dangerous too, right? I don't want to
Of
get too
course, yeah, yeah.
tied up with it, but I had to build a ramp from the top of the enclosure. So when I wasn't there, it would hang out on top of one of the other water monitor enclosures, and it would sit up there. And then when I would come in, it would huff, and then it would scoot behind. So I just built a ramp from like a long piece of plywood on a ladder to go from there into the enclosure, right? So eventually, finally, it made its way back into its original cage, but it didn't want to. It knew. Like they're super smart. Like,
They are, aren't they?
oh yeah,
Look, our Tigers, when it, 'cause when I do let it out and another roam around the room. Obviously, I'm wearing trainers because the first time I did it, like a rookie, I was wearing my flip flops with no socks on, and it came up being literally like went to bite my toe, totally missed, and I thought, thank God for that. But then the other day, my wife, we were doing some filming with it, and my wife sat next to it, and she had her hand on the floor just like that, and I was thinking to myself, don't put your hand there. And then obviously it came over and she didn't move. And I said to her, actually, don't move because if you move quickly, it's going to panic. So I said, just sit still. And I wish I didn't say it. I went, sit still. And obviously it came over to her and just tested her to see if she had a bit of food, nipped her little finger. And obviously in the middle of filming, she went, you bastard, you bastard. And she was like, and I was like, yeah, you've just ruined my video. And she was like, and I was like, well, I told you to sit still. And she was like, yeah, I was sitting still. And I was like, oh, okay, whatever. But
yeah.
they are testy, and obviously being so young, I expect it. But sometimes I just let it out the room and I let it just wander around. But then the downside is because this room is pretty small because we've got quite a lot of animals next to it. It comes over to the bearded dragon, annoys the bearded dragon. I think I'm annoying this one behind me because I've got a light on here.
I see in there.
It is just here, just like giving me a death stare. But yeah, they're just fascinating, aren't they? And how clever how they can do things. I just find it's great. But what I was going to move on to, the last question I was going to ask you is about expos. I know you do a few. Have you got any lined up for 2026?
Well, I always do the Canadian Reptile Breeders Expo here. That's the big one every September. That's usually the only expo that I do
Yeah,
locally. Um, I have done Tinley only because my friend Brian Susan from Sundown Reptiles in the States last year, they had that big flood in North Carolina where he was, that big
yeah.
hurricane or whatever that rolled through. So he wasn't able to make it. So he had a free table. So I had
Oh, you jumped
I
on it.
had shipped I had shipped a bunch of animals down to my distributor anyways prior to the show. And so he's like, oh, just go sit at my table. And I was like, okay, perfect. So, but that's the only way I got a booth there, right? Because they're like, you can never get a table at Tinley. I was considering I have until this Friday to make my final decision on taking another half year off of work. If I do, then I'll probably do like the NARBC in
Yeah,
Arlington, Texas,
yeah,
with my distributor. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I like the expos to like go and meet people and all that
yeah.
stuff, and it's fun to watch people's reactions when they see it. It's just a lot of work, right?
Yeah,
Like it's so much work. And I have the farm here, and then I have, two teenage kids that need
yeah.
me to drive them around everywhere. And then I have
Like dad's
another,
taxis, is it?
yeah, I have like a cottage rental business too.
Yeah,
Plus
yeah.
I'm really busy, right?
Keeps
So yeah, I'll make the time to do the CRBE, and then when I go, I don't just want to half-ass it either, right? I don't want to have just a
yeah,
bunch of deli cups on a table. I want to make things look reasonably decent and nice
yeah.
enclosures. So it does get to a point where it's like this is a lot of work, and
Of
for
course.
me, it's like you know, it's not like I have large volume animals to sell, like leopard geckos and things like that. And
Yeah,
I always manage to sell most of my inventory regardless of the shows, anyways. So there's not much incentive for me to do them other than the fact that I get to meet people, right? Customers
yeah,
and everybody's good people. So I like going and talking and you know conversing with people, but yeah, to actually just go out and do it for the sake of making money, let's say, that's not what I do them for. I just
yeah,
go to network and stuff, but
yeah.
yeah.
Obviously, you meet other people, don't you? It's about community and sharing your passion with each other.
Yeah,
So that's what I'm
yeah, I
hoping.
always get asked if I go to ham. People are always like, oh, do you go to ham, do you go to ham? And I'm like, I've never been a vendor there. I've never even been to ham myself personally, right? I should, because I hear it's insane, but
Yeah,
but it's
I'm a.
just
I want to go to Tinley. I'm planning. I'm trying to plan a trip to go in. I think it's October.
Mhm.
I think there's I think Tinley Park. I've got one in October, and I was speaking to a few others about it, and that is probably one of my trips I would like to try and make because I haven't been
Yeah.
over to the States for I've been for many, many, many years, and it's something what I want to do, and I'd love to go with my wife as well and share that because she's into it as well. Like she loves doing all this reptiles things, what we do together. It's
Yeah.
a great escape from what we do for a living because we're dog trainers for a living. So trying to getting away from, even though it's still animals, but it's just a chance for us to kind of have a bit of breathing space. This room
Yeah.
is like my man cave. When she comes in here, I'm like, get out. This is my space. But like I said to her, like, she's missing out on coming to Vietnam. So I was like, I might have to make a trip to Tinley to meet other people because obviously I'm getting the opportunity to meet Adam. And I thought that's going to
Mm.
be nice when we're at Vietnam, but to actually go to the States, because I think it's in Illinois, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just outside of Chicago,
Yeah.
about 45 minutes outside of Chicago. Well, my first time to Tinley was only 3 years ago. I didn't go to Tinley this October, but I went for the previous two Octobers. And yeah, it's a good show.
Yeah.
You see a lot of the typical show animals that people breed a lot of, like ball pythons and
Yeah.
leopard geckos and cresteds and that sort of stuff. But there's also some rare stuff. I mean, I like going down to Tinley just for the pizza. They have that Ah, they have that Chicago deep dish pizza at a bunch of places down there, and it's like, oh, man, I don't get that where I am. This sounds great. That's worth the
Where
drive just.
about in because you are obviously Canada, but where about actually are you in? Where actually are you based? Like what area of it is it called?
I'm like an hour east of Toronto,
Oh,
right?
okay.
An hour northeast of Toronto.
You
So
don't watch Toronto Maple Leafs, do you?
they're horrible.
So
Don't even get.
I'm a massive ice hockey fan, and that's
Oh
probably
yeah,
like I'm from the UK, but like I've said it in probably every episode because me and Adam have a bit of a laugh about it together because
yeah.
he's Boston, and then he was like, "Well, who do you like?" We do this support because I'm from the UK, and I was like, "You're gonna hate me, but I'm a New York Rangers guy. I'm massive into New York Rangers. I don't know why because they're absolutely awful this season."
Yeah.
Absolutely dreadful. And I used to have a massive soft spot, massive for Anaheim Ducks, massive. And it's just because everyone's like, why do you like Anaheim? And I was like, I watched the film Mighty Ducks when I was a kid and I just fell in love with it. And then that film made that team. So I was
Yeah.
like, that's why I fell in love with it. But then as I got into the sport more, I was like, you know what? I don't know what it is. I just fell in love with New York. I love the city, and
Yeah.
they had some quality players. And then I fell in love with Chris Kreider and Jacob Trouba, who were my favorite players. And they've been traded to Anaheim, and I was like, oh, that sucks. And funny enough,
Yeah.
tonight Anaheim go to New York, so they play each other tonight. So and it's Chris Kreider and Jacob Trouba's return to New York since the trade. So I'm kind of wondering what kind of atmosphere it's going to be at Madison Square Garden tonight. But I'm kind of wishing it wasn't at Madison Square Garden because New York can't win at Madison Square Garden at all. So I'm getting up at like
I'm
1
sure.
o'clock in the morning
I'm
trying
sure
to watch
Truman's
it.
going to lay some people out.
It is so bad, honestly. They're a real bad team. But I've got friends like, because we've got a local team in the UK, we've got our own elite league, and we have like my local team's Coventry,
Yep.
and we like season ticket holders there, and we do a little podcast for our team because it's a small. The league's small. It's not nothing like the NHL.
Yep.
But we have a little chat, and like we've got one of my mates, one of my best friends is a Chicago Blackhawks fan. One of my other best friends is a Toronto Maple Leafs fan because there's many of them in the UK because they just think they're amazing when they're not.
Sure.
They can't even win a Stanley. So they are, yeah. And then my other friend, he's just really recently got into the NHL. He's not really followed it. So we had to do a team who we wanted to pick, and I was trying to push him to the Rangers, but he followed in my wife's footsteps, where my wife absolutely loves the Colorado Avalanches, and I was like, "What?
Yeah.
Them?" And she's like, "One day we're gonna go there," and I was like, "Okay, I'm down for that." Um, and then like my other mate was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna support Colorado. I like it." And I was like, "What do you like about them?" Just because they're winning every game at the moment. And he was like, "No, I just like the look of them." I was like, "Okay," but it's just a bit of banter we have with each other. But is there any? So, what team do you follow a team over that over your
Well,
not into the
it's funny because there's a there's everybody in my area is a Toronto Maple Leafs
of
fan,
course,
and like my dad is a diehard Toronto Maple Leafs fan.
really?
He I mean, my whole family's hockey. That's all we ever did, right? Like I played university hockey, played junior
Wow.
hockey. And he's always been a Leafs fan. He's 73 now, and the last time the Leafs won the cup, he was 15. Right?
That's why
So
I laugh about my
I,
friends. It was like you weren't even born when they won that cup.
right, I said to him, I was like, man, I don't even care about the Leafs, but I want them to win the cup before you pass on, just so you can see it one last time, right? Like honestly, man, because he is like, and every year it's the same situation.
Yeah,
It's like at the beginning of the year they win a couple games, and everyone's like, oh, this is their year, and then it's like
playoffs
they
and they screw it up all
first
the
round of
time.
playoffs, right? They
They
have no
can't do
grit
it. They're not a playoff team. They always mess
now.
it up. And I
They have
love seeing it happen. I love it because I always go. My mates are, this is the year. This is the year, and I go. And to make him happy, I go, yeah, yeah, you might have a chance. And then when it comes to it, I'll go, ha, ha, you didn't do it this time.
it's so funny.
I love
It's
seeing
so
him
funny.
I love seeing him like get
Uh,
crushed.
all these people, they're so delusional. I was like, man, they don't have the fortitude, man. They don't have the grit. That's the problem. When playoff hockey, like if you've ever played hockey,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
a whole different game, right? It's a
Oh
whole
yeah,
different game. I mean, everything's on table. So like you got to sacrifice your body
yeah. You've
you're
got to
getting
put everything
injured.
into it.
And the Leafs just don't have that type of player. That's the problem.
It's a
But
shame though, isn't it? Because they have. Technically, I think they've got technically the best, one of the best rosters out. They've got some quality players.
oh
Like
yeah,
you deserve to win things, but then when you look at, I always obviously call him McJesus. But like with the Oilers, they deserve to win something deep down. They really deserve to win something because McDavid is by far one of the best players I've ever seen
oh
for
yeah.
my generation. I've seen play, and I'm thinking you deserve to win something so badly. But it's just not. I've got a feeling it could be them, but then I keep saying, will the? I'm still praying that the Rangers will even make the playoffs, but at this rate, they ain't gonna do. They ain't gonna do shit
Yeah.
because it is bad. It is bad. There's times I've had to turn it. I've got to because obviously I get up at like 1 a.m. my time to watch them play sometimes, and
Yeah.
they get up and go, "Why did I even bother getting up to watch this trash?" Like they are bad. Like they are the worst team I've seen for a long time, and hockey at the moment isn't going in my favor because my team in Coventry are not doing very well, and they're playing dire, and New York are playing dire. So, but no, I
Mhm.
completely changed the conversation from reptiles to hockey. But I just thought I had to put that in there because
Well, I was going to say I've always flip flopped in my favorite team because my brother he was he was the head strength and conditioning coach for the Los Angeles Kings. So
Wow.
at that when he was with them, they were obviously my favorite team. I had brotherly
Yeah,
loyalty,
yeah, yeah.
and they won the Stanley Cup when he was there.
Yeah.
So I had the Stanley Cup at my cottage. I took it
Wow.
out on my boat, and it was
You
great,
both.
right? Yeah. So
That's
we
sick.
the guy that brings us the Stanley Cup, though, they came to the cottage in a minivan, right? Like an unmarked minivan. And then the guy comes down to the cottage with the Stanley Cup. And then my brother gets to hoist it up. And we put it on a table on the dock. And everybody was out there in their boats looking at it. And then I said to the
It's
guy,
so
my brother,
cool.
yeah, my brother's like, let's go for a rip in the boat with it. So I asked the guy that brings the Stanley Cup around,
That boat
and
must have been really strong to hold something because I bet that looks heavy, man. That looks so heavy.
it's not that bad. I think it's
Ah,
like maybe 40 pounds or 50 pounds. It's not that bad. But the guy was like, yeah, just put a life jacket on it in case it goes overboard.
that's
So
quality. That
yeah.
is so cool. But I'm
Yeah.
going to leave you to it because it's been fun vibing with you. Honestly, I really
Yeah.
appreciate your time. And we've gone from like reptiles to talking about hockey, and people who probably watch it, but like, why are we talking about ice hockey for? This is supposed to be about reptiles, but I had to bring that into conversation just because where you're based, I know obviously where you are, I know it's like die hard, and I
Oh,
wish to God it was like this here because we don't have it. Obviously, it's soccer here,
yeah.
football, and I used to be into it, but now I'm just like, now I watch hockey, I'm like, it's so difficult to watch a football game for me because I'm like, when they roll over, I'm like, you don't see half the shit I see on the ice compared to what you do.
Well,
It's,
that's always the inside joke between hockey players, right? We look at other sports and
I
guys
don't know,
flop, flopping on the field or the basketball
rolling
court like
around.
they just got shot. I'm just like, oh my God, you have no
Yeah.
idea. And then
And,
you get hockey players pulling out their teeth on the
and then
bench because
they're just like, and then they just,
yeah, yeah,
if that was me though, I would be like, yeah, I lost a tooth, I need to go to the
yeah,
dentist, mate. But then they're just like, yeah, let's crap, let's just.
yeah.
But anyway, I'll leave it to it, Brandon. But thank you so, so much for your time.
Thank
And
you.
we've got to get that merch sorted as well.
I know. I know. I totally dropped the ball on that. I'll get it to
That's
you. I
cool, bro.
promise.
Don't worry about
Sorry.
it. Uh, anyway, thanks for everybody who has tuned in. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, for sure, buddy. Thank you.